All right, guys, let's get started. It's 11:01, and thank you everyone for joining our today's session. This is our session number 9, Anonymous Market Research with the Hiring Managers. And this is the very first in the 2021. So congrats. Happy New Year to everyone, and let's get started. So first of all, I want to welcome and say thank you to our managers who volunteering their time to participate in today's session. And Vinosh, he's an engineering manager at Flowcast. Um, and Min, he's engineering manager. Sorry, I didn't update it, but the former engineering manager at Ibotta. And you're right now a project manager, right? At
Yeah, a program manager
program
for
manager at
Lambda School.
Lambda School. Yeah. Quick disclaimer, this event is solely educational event. We're not promising any job opportunities. However, um, all our managers are active managers, and just keep it in mind. And at the same time, nobody is representing their company. All right. So we represent only our own opinion. All right. And this is how it works. If you guys the very first time and you haven't been here, actually, guys, who is the very first time? Can you ping in the chat, like just hit the plus so we can see this? That would be interesting. Uh, where is my chat? Okay. Oh, I see. We have a bunch of people who is the first time. Awesome, great. You are welcome and thank you for joining. So how it works? We have today 4 candidates who willing to participate, and they will be anonymously. So each candidate they have to prepare just 2 questions. Tell about himself and describe what he did at his last company project, if it was if he is straight out of the boot camp, or and then Vinosh and Min, they will be asking follow-up questions, whatever and however they do at their companies, at their job. But most of all, which is the most important, they will provide the feedback, right? And the feedback will be what went well and what they should improve, and just overall feedback. This is the most valuable. This feedback will help to improve actually interview skills, which is kind of a little bit different compared to regular job. All right. And if you want to participate as a candidate in the next session, you are welcome. Please join to our Slack, and you have to fill it out the Google form. We post it in the meetup. Um, in the meetup, you actually just join to the meetup, to the next meetup. In description, there is the link to Google form, and yeah, fill out, then join to the Slack, and you will be going through the onboarding process. All right. Okay, let's get started. Vinesh, Min, do you want to say something before we going to start? Total up to you.
I'm pretty
No.
good.
Yeah, same.
Okay. All right, I'm stopping sharing my screen, and then we have a candidate number 1. Um, so candidate number 1, are you ready to
Yes.
start? Awesome. So please share your screen with your resume. Meanwhile, I'll put the timer. So you will have 4 minutes total with introduction and description of your project or experience. Sounds good?
Yep. All right.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. And let's get started. Please tell us about yourself.
All right. So I am JS.
and I am currently attending Fort Hays State University, getting my computer science, bachelor's in computer science degree. I'm in my last semester, so I'm finally finishing up. I've been developing on my own for around 10 years now, and I'm also working as a contractor at TA Technologies for the past 3 years. And what I've been doing there, actually, yeah, no, never mind. And in my free time, most of my free time is spent developing games on the side with other developers. I'm often both the manager and the developer in that case. And do I just transition into my own project or?
Yeah, sure, please. Go
Okay,
ahead.
cool.
Right on time, by the way.
What was that?
I said that you just right on time.
Okay, cool. Okay. So, and I actually have a portfolio. So for my major project I've been working on, it's a open world RPG developed in Unity. I've been developing this for 3.5 years now with a small team, managing the project as well as being the only programmer for the project. And what that has brought is developing everything from the foundational systems, such as the world streaming system, and everything that comes with that, as well as the gameplay systems and tools, which is my personal favorite, developing tools for the world builders and the writers and everyone to put their content into the game. So like, for example, loading up chunks of the world to stream, tools to bring objects into the world, which are much better than Unity's built-in tools, things like that. So these features have been, for 3 years, it's been a long and arduous process building this from the ground up, but it's taught me so much about just how to build a large scale project. And to me, it's a lot more interesting than my work professionally, where it's usually smaller scale Python scripts and so on. I really like large scale projects, and I also really like developing tools. That's definitely something I want to do in the future professionally. And yeah, that's it, I would say.
All right, awesome. Guys, any follow-up questions?
Yeah, I'll shoot first. Thank you for sharing a lot of that. That is really, really cool. And thank you for also popping over to your portfolio. Sometimes it's easy to miss these, and very, very impressive way of organizing what you've spent a long, long time working on. I think there's some really, really cool stuff there. So thank you. So my first question is kind of what kind of work you're actually looking for. What kind of roles are you looking for? I know you mentioned a few things that you enjoy, that you really like, tooling, but in kind of your own words, what role are you looking for?
As you can probably tell, I am interested in the games industry specifically, and that I would honestly be happy fulfilling a role in the actual games themselves. But I think I am most interested in developing engines as opposed to actual gameplay. So including tooling. I really just like building pipelines, seeing how to make that work, kind of almost a human interaction with it, which is really cool.
Awesome.
Great. I'll go next. So a question I had is, who is your customer here? How are you getting, like you said that you've managed this project for quite a while by yourself. How do you get validation that you're building the right tools for whoever it is that you're building for?
Right. So I'm building tools for my development team, so then they can make the content for the game. So how I get validation is I basically interact with them. I usually start off with basic screenshots. Hey, how does this look? GIFs are usually even more useful. We have a team Discord where we communicate, that kind of thing. And then they usually give, the initial feedback. Oh, basic stuff. Oh, move this. Oh, this is a little confusing. And then I usually go into actually, integrating it, and then they test it out. They usually don't like it. There's always things that make it better. I really enjoy, like, it's really cool when I could be there physically and watch them, or screen sharing, because
Screen share,
yeah, it's awesome because you can see, like, oh, they missed that. Oh, this took way longer than I really like optimizing, like, how long it takes to do certain tasks.
And is there a point where before you start, you say, what are the things that could be helpful for you? And from there, it sort of lends into what you built.
Yeah. Before I build the tool, usually I have an idea of, like, a problem I want to solve because I've been annoyed by that problem. Because I usually have my hands in kind of everything. I've also done the modeling. I've also done, being a small project, so I kind of know the pains. So, and I'm a person who doesn't like to waste time, so I put that into what I want to build. I also, yeah.
Have you ever built the wrong thing entirely?
Absolutely.
You want to tell
Yes.
us about a time?
Oh, okay, I have to think. Yeah. So I was building this tool. I've learned to be better at this, but I often have this grand idea of a tool that will change everything, this exciting thing, and it ends up just being way too much, a huge solution for a simple problem. And I've had that problem where, like, I wanted to build this kind of dungeon builder where it would be really smart and automatic, and it was too smart and automatic, and it ended up just being way too much, and I ended up canning it, and we just build it by hand, and it's much faster.
Nice. That's awesome. So I suppose if you were to talk with an aspiring young game engineer, how would you advise them on that? What's sort of the lesson that you would give to them from that experience?
I would tell them to not do what I'm doing. Don't build a massive open world RPG, and build something start to finish. Do a game jam. Those are awesome. I've done a few game jams. I've only done one official game jam. This little guy. And they're great. So you can start from start to finish, get something out there, show it to people. You can get that feedback. Also, don't be afraid to share, even if it's early. Don't wait until you think it's quote unquote finished, because it never will be. Get it
Never.
out there. Yeah.
Never.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's really
Awesome.
good. One follow-up question is, so the outside of the game, if you scroll up just a bit,
Yes.
great. Can you tell me about the TAE? Because I'm not quite sure what the work there is. What's your day-to-day there?
Yeah. So TA is a nuclear fusion company, and I am a contractor. I'm not with the company, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm working alongside a scientist who he develops the scientific models. It's usually, like, related to plasma and such. And then he gives me the documentation, and then I develop the actual model into code, Python. And then those tools are shipped over to the theorists and the researchers to play around with the science, trying to figure it out. I've also integrated one of the tools into their automated pipeline. So when their device, runs, it actually automatically collects the data and puts it in their database, so they can access it whenever they want.
Nice. Have you, so in the course of doing this kind of work, have you found yourself coming up with optimizations yourself, or are these ideas and suggestions given to you by someone else?
At first they essentially told me, what to specifically program, but at this point now I'm the one who chooses how to actually implement the models. They just give me the science. They give me a handful of equations, and then I have to,
Wow.
I have to make an iterator, or I have to relax this, and so on.
Awesome. So do you do your own prioritization?
In terms of like what project to work on, or
Yeah. What kinds of projects to work on, but I guess tasks individually as well.
Yes. Usually the projects are small enough that I sadly don't get to have that much tasks. But yeah, I absolutely have to figure out, do I fix bugs right now? Do I not fix bugs and be a bad person? And so on. Yeah. As for task management, usually I would just show like my Trello for my Ardenfall project, where I have hundreds of tasks that I have to juggle.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So that's what I would say for tasks. But sadly, professionally, I have not had too many tasks to juggle.
What's on the TAE side, what's the sort of tech stack there? You said there's a database involved. What kind of database? Can you go a little bit deeper there?
Yeah, so they use MDS Plus for the database. And they have their own specialized pipeline for running Python code automatically. So I've just integrated into their pipeline. It's a really powerful pipeline. It's actually really impressive what they've built. And I basically just integrated in there.
And who creates that pipeline?
Just TAE. I'm not sure.
I see.
Team there. Yeah.
Someone there. Okay. And created this pipeline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
Awesome.
All right, guys, if you don't have any other follow-up questions, do you want to move with the feedback?
I feel like I'm ready.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it, man.
Sure, yeah. So really, really awesome, dude. I really enjoyed when you started to tell about yourself. A lot of people aren't realizing that, like, just because a lot of interviews are being done remotely these days, that actually gives you a ton of extra new tools, right? Exactly like you did. You probably wouldn't have been able to do that in a phone screen or in a physical interview where you actually popped over into your portfolio and started to show it off, right? I thought that, in all honesty, I think that your resume is very light. It's very light on some of your strongest details, and your portfolio is really where a lot of that really starts to shine through. So for anybody watching, you absolutely can do something like this. If you're doing a remote call, you can, of course, you can screen share and you can walk them through your portfolio or something that has a much higher likelihood of people actually seeing it. Overall, I thought that you have a really awesome focus around your portfolio, the work that you've done, and your interests. I got a very clear vision of the kind of person you would be were you applying for a role. A couple of things that I think that you can continue to improve on there. Being that the resume tends to be a common artifact that you're going to be emailing and people are used to looking at. Start to consider what you could do to translate a lot of what you talked about. You really like tooling, you really like optimization, you really like building things that make your team more efficient. Start taking some of those details and moving them over to your resume. That'll make it a lot stronger and people get a stronger sense of who you are right from the get-go. Yeah, I'll stop talking for a minute there.
Awesome. On my end, to echo what Min said, it became much clearer, the kind of role you're looking for and what your passion was once we talked about Ardenfall, and kind of seeing the life cycle there, the software life cycle there was helpful for me to go, okay, so he's familiar with this, right? And some of the challenges and what have been, how does that loop work? Because like at any given point, no matter what company you're at, there's always that same loop happening, right? So you're trying to see, can those skills that apply here be applicable to other industries? Right, so that's the good thing. Critical feedback wise, the challenge was that I was like, I'm not sure if JS would be interested in anything other than gaming, right? And so you have definitely shown us your passion, but I'd be curious if like if you're doing a gaming interview, absolutely, I would say run with this.
Right,
Like
right.
this
And
is
that's what I was kind
awesome.
of thinking. I was pretending I was doing a gaming interview.
Exactly, exactly. But if it were somewhere else, right?
Right.
You'd
Sure.
be like, I don't know if I have that opportunity here at this company
Mhm.
for what this person. So instead, a question you could ask yourself is, so this thing about tooling, why do I like it? Right? You could be like, I like to empower users to X. Now, see, that's much more generic. You can abstract that away to be something that can apply at any different job, right? And I would have also liked to see that same sort of like, this is the theme, this is my jam, and how you applied it to TAE, right? And so now you're seeing the person. Now you're seeing how this person is able to take their skill set and apply it to different projects. That's what I would say.
Okay.
All right. From my side also, what I want to say right now, currently I'm looking for also backend engineers, right? And I'm looking for a lot of resumes currently. So what I can tell you from my feedback would be you need to polish your resume, as Min said, because all feedback that you got from Minoj and Min after, during the interview, you might not get it to that state because your resume really, I mean, even for student, however, you're not, you have decent experience, but you're not showing it in the resume. You should work on it because if you want to apply to a decent company, to a decent gaming company, you need to have also decent resume. All right.
Right.
And for our audience, I'll tell also straight and that we do not filtering any candidates. So this is a great opportunity to get the feedback for anyone. You like, some people, they applying and they're not getting even to the interview. And why? And this is why, right? Because your resume doesn't look strong, right? So yeah, apply these, what you got the feedback, and you should be good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, candidate number one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. We have candidate number two. Again, just for people who I just getting some direct messages like, how can I start doing the mock interview, how we can participate. Again, there's just 3 steps what you need to do. The first, fill out the Google form. The second one, you have to go into the Slack channel. It's actually written in the description. Just read the description, which is also kind of necessary to have attention to details. Go to Slack. And the third one, you have to go through the onboarding process, which is hosting by Irina. And all our candidates, they actually did the same thing. All candidates applied, went through onboarding session, joined to the Slack, and here we go. All right. All right, candidate number two, let's get started. You have 4 minutes, and and please share your screen first.
Okay, all right, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay,
Awesome.
great.
You have 4 minutes, and let's get started. Please tell us about yourself and your projects.
Okay, excellent. Yep, I'm AJ Candidate 2, and I'm new to software development. I recently graduated from a boot camp in the backend engineering program. And prior to that, I worked in human services, and I was in quality assurance. And so I determined like making sure that people were approving the correct people and denying the correct people based on those requirements. And so I got interested in software development through that because I started working with some external contractors developing an automated system to approve and deny applications for programs. And so I decided to jump in and try out a bootcamp school in the backend program because I'm very like data oriented. And so I thought working with databases would be good with that. And so my most recent project that I worked on, it was a web app built on Ruby on Rails. And then it also utilized a Sinatra microservice. And what it was, it's just an application where a user could go and log in using Google OAuth. And then they could favorite representatives, either senators or House members, and then select bills or topics of bills that they wanted to display and compare, vote on these bills. They're actually bills that were being voted on in Congress, and then compare the results with that selected representative. And so I really enjoyed working on that project just because it had a lot of moving parts. I got to work with the ProPublica API, and then I used that Sinatra microservice to parse it. And it was a group project, and it was my idea. And so I kind of was also an unofficial project manager on that project and helped kind of set expectations and make sure that the project was moving in the direction that I wanted to take it, because I had proposed it to my classmates. It did end up winning a demo competition that we presented to at the end of our graduation. And so, yeah, that's kind of my most recent project. I'd love to answer any questions you have about it or anything.
Okay, Minaj.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Really quick, you mentioned that you were sort of either an impromptu or unofficial project lead for that ProPublica project. How did you ensure success? How did you manage progress for your team?
Yeah, so we did use GitHub projects, and right at the beginning, we all had a meeting and kind of set expectations, and team members decided kind of like where they think that they could contribute best to the overall goal. And then we used GitHub projects and just we worked in about, I'd say, 2-day sprints. So we met every 2 days. We did it over a week, so we had kind of like really shorter sprint times. And we would just meet and check in and then kind of assign out tasks that were still needed at those 2-day marks. Nice.
Can you tell me a little bit about some of the other types of meetings? Like, did you do stand-ups and things like that?
Yeah, we had daily stand-ups, and it was divided kind of into those focusing on the front end and those focusing on the back end. And so we had daily stand-ups with those like little mini groups, and then every 2 days we had a full stand-up with everybody to kind of reset expectations and get feedback on which those individual groups were working on.
Nice. And what specifically did you kind of contribute to some of those ceremonies?
Yeah, I was just kind of the facilitator, and a lot of times if there was any conflict, I would just kind of like work that out on design decisions. Since it was my idea, if there was any conflict over kind of like something that was central to that, then I would say, hey, this was kind of my vision for the project, so I think we should move in this direction. So it's just kind of, yeah, just mainly like a facilitator and kind of guiding the discussions.
Awesome. So you broke all ties or all disagreements?
No, I didn't break. It was mainly it would be more collaborative. Like we kind of come to a decision as a group. But if there was anyone where like it was tied, because like for example, there was one where we were making a decision on whether or not to display like the party affiliation of the person who had introduced the bill. And so there was just disagreement on whether we should or shouldn't. And so that was one where I said, well, kind of the purpose of the project was to cut through partisanship. And so that might lead users to vote yes on a bill just because they have the same party as the person who introduced it. And so that was a decision where like I was kind of the tiebreaker and made that decision. But most of the other ones were, if there were coding issues or something, it was mainly just collaborative and kind of a consensus decision.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that. I really like that. Cool. So you mentioned conflicts, and you mentioned kind of having to work through them with people. Do you think like just a shorter project like this, do you think that kind of led to some scenarios where let's say like feelings were hurt, just to put it simply?
Yeah, probably. Kind of like the group members who like were really like pushing to display a party affiliation on that. I mean, it's possible that their feelings were hurt, but I think they understood kind of after I explained to them the direction that I wanted to take the project and why we made that decision. So I mean, that was, other than that, there wasn't really, it was a really good group. Everybody worked together seamlessly. I think one of the factors in that was just everybody was really pumped about the project and the overall idea. And so that made things a lot easier.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Awesome. I wanted to go a little bit on the project itself in terms of how it works. So let's say I'm a user and I want to come in, and you said what I read here is that allows users to vote on the bills being voted on in Congress. So can you walk me through, like, I get to what is it, project1.herokuapp.com. What's the first thing that I see? What do I click? And when I click, what is actually happening to the data? Can you walk me through the data and how it flows?
Yeah, absolutely. So like in the beginning, when we set up the architecture, one of the important things was we didn't want to save any user data on like the bills that they were actually voting on. So that isn't saved on the user side. It's just used to compare and then get the score. And so as a user, when you go in, you'll either be able to, there's a drop down, and so you can select an individual representative from that drop down, or you can enter in either the name of your state or the name of a representative. And if you enter in a state, it'll take you to a page that lists all the senators and representatives from that state. Otherwise, if you enter a representative, it'll take you directly to their page. And then once you're on a representatives page, you would select compare positions on that page, and it takes you to a like a bills selection page. And then that's where you would say, I want to compare on, there's options. So it has the 10 most recent bills listed. You can also enter in a bill number, or there's also a drop down with topics of bills. And so then you would select that, and then you go to a comparison page where it displays the bill title with a link to the full bill text, as well as there's a little summary below the bill title. And then you just select yes or no on that page for all of the bills that you selected, if it's a category, or just the one if you entered in one. You hit compare, and then behind the scenes, that's where it goes to the ProPublica API, grabs the votes from that representative that you're comparing with. It compares your votes right there immediately, and then spits out the comparison calculation. So it doesn't save any of that vote information. And then you're taken to a results page that shows you the list of the bills that you agreed on, the list of bills that you didn't agree on, and then the comparison score in total.
And what's the shape of the data that you're sending over to that API? Like, what do you have to send to be able to get back the results you want?
Yeah, it's in JSON format, and I'm sending, it's using the ProPublica API. So we're sending the representatives ID to gather their votes. And then also we're filtering through their votes to pull out the vote on that specific bill for each one of those bills. So we're iterating through. And then once we get that vote, then we make that comparison with each of them and spit out that score.
Great, awesome. I want to switch to your time at Human Services Agency B.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you have a situation where you had like sort of a difficult coworker, and how did you end up working with them?
Yeah, let me think. Yeah, I would say that I had a situation working with a difficult coworker. Probably we just had disagreements on kind of like everything is for the design decisions of the application.
On all the things, nice.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we were always disagreeing. But kind of the way that I would work through it would be just making sure that I was understanding like their point of view, and then describing my point of view to kind of come to a resolution. I know one of the disagreements that we had was over like the menus that we wanted on the application that was being created for the discount program, and like they had wanted it to have like just text that would say like ticket or reload, and I had wanted there to be included like audio images, or not audio but images, so that like clients who can't read or aren't as literate as everybody else would still be able to kind of figure out what was going on.
Right.
And so in disagreements like that, I would just kind of explain my position, and then they would explain like theirs. And then if there was any issue that like we couldn't come to an agreement together, then we would just go to a manager and kind of lay out the
Sure.
situation
Hash it
and
out.
say,
Yeah.
and say, this is where we're both coming from. What do you think?
Right. Right. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. What in maybe either at B or C there? Oh, sorry, Min. Just one more. What's maybe like the highest achievement? What's the thing that you're most proud of in both of those roles?
Yeah, probably the one,
either of those roles, rather.
Yeah, the one that I'm most proud of probably was at Agency C, and that was one where it had been put on a federal corrective action plan for not following the Medicaid like resource verification
intense.
procedures.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was, and so I was kind of put in charge of updating those procedures and getting us back in compliance. And I noticed that like we were requiring people to verify stuff that wasn't counting in the end towards their limit. And so I successfully kind of presented the data on like how much this was taking, and that was why we were getting dinged from the feds, was that we weren't following that specific procedure. And so I was able to get them to update the actual policy for the state so that we're no longer requiring them to verify that information. And so that I'm really proud of, just because it removed a lot of barriers for people accessing Medicaid. Because they were having to go and get like the deed to their house, even though that didn't count towards Medicaid. And so they were just applying again and over again. And we were saying, get us the deed, get us the deed. And so it removed a lot of those barriers. And so that's one thing that I'm really proud of, because it expanded access to that program for a lot of people.
Very cool.
Just to clarify on that, just to make sure, I'm taking down notes and I don't want to misrepresent anything. You are really proud of that because you worked through this legislative requirement instead of actually radically changing your program to fit the current requirement. You instead took on the work to change the requirement itself, right?
Yes, and one of the reasons that I'm really proud of it is because not only taking on that work, and it was just being successful, because that particular state is like an area that's not very like they don't support Medicaid kind of in general as a program. And so I was able to demonstrate that this would benefit like the finances of the state in order for them to remove that policy. And so that's one reason I'm really proud of it.
That's amazing, man. That is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna jump into, since I'm a back-end engineer myself and I like a lot of that, so I'm gonna pick on you a little bit.
Yeah.
So tell me why your favorite language or framework is your favorite.
Yeah, I would say my favorite language to work with is Python. And that one's my favorite. Just it has simplicity as far as like syntactically. It's pretty simple, and so I like that, as well as just like the machine learning and kind of like natural language processing capabilities of Python. I really like just the functionality of Python. It's a really good framework or a really good language to work in. And then as far as frameworks going along with that, it would just be Flask. I really like that it's lightweight and that you can design a lot of things yourself and make a lot of good decisions that you can't do in like Ruby on Rails, for instance, because most of that backend program that I went to at the bootcamp was in Ruby on Rails. And so a lot of that stuff is set up for you. And so one of the things that I like with Flask was I was able to make those decisions when I'm working, and you don't have this kind of like Ruby or Rails magic that they say, like working behind the scenes. You're making explicit decisions, which I liked.
Awesome. Okay, I've only got one last question I want to ask you. What is your least favorite part of software engineering, and why is that?
Least favorite part. Yeah, I would probably say just the sort of like the DevOps portion and like getting environments set up. That's my least favorite part, and getting like continuous integration set up and like all of that jazz, just because it's one of those things where like you don't get the instant satisfaction. Like when I write code and I see that it's working, I get it, but kind of just getting everything set up and connected and a good pipeline going, you don't see the benefits of those right away. So that's it's just frustrating and annoying. That's my least favorite part.
I love your transparency.
Yes. Cool.
All right, guys, let's, do you want to start with the feedback?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Vinod, you want to start off or?
Yeah, sure. I can go for it. So let's start with your resume is very clear. I liked quite a few things when I first saw it. One of them is, and I also thought that you could maybe even bold this, that won the bootcamp school demo thing. That's something,
Okay.
right? I liked, so this is just my style, is that like, I actually like when people show what they did if they're coming from a different industry, like show me what you did at your last job, right? So I really liked human services agency B and C on here, right? Sometimes I've seen candidates, they just put their projects from their bootcamp, and like that doesn't give me a full picture because so many other people will have the same things. What makes you is actually the stuff from those human services agencies. That's what makes you different, right? So that was interesting for me to see. I thought in this, so that's just on their resume. And then I thought in this interview, it was interesting to see there's like themes that you start to pick out, right? Themes of sort of like responsibility, driving to a kind of an output for a customer. I liked when you said the highest challenge, like maybe for me, the best part of the interview was that Medicaid question, because what you're describing is impact for a large group, right? So that was really strong, I thought. I also liked that, like, when I said, hey, can you like explain this API? Like what's the data? Like you were able to go big picture and then zoom right into that API and the payload, right? So all of those were really strong to me. If I had to come up with critical feedback, I will need a second. Like I just thought this was a pretty well done interview.
Thank you.
Yeah. I will echo all of the same sentiments. I think personally, I think your resume, it's a little difficult for me to read just because it's dense. That's not to say that's not a huge knock, in all honesty, and that's a really small nit. You have a theme throughout both your interview and the resume that I thought was incredibly powerful. And it's your outcomes. You're somebody that delivers actual outcomes no matter what situation you're in. Vinod mentioned this. I think it's the strongest thing that you can do for your resume, for your interview itself, because it spoke to you being able to actually deliver, right? And that sets you very much so apart from a lot of other candidates. I'm gonna plus one and mention it again. Keeping your past experiences, your past work experience, even if they're not technical, putting that on your resume is a plus. Almost in almost any scenario that I've seen, people really respond well to it because at the very least, it tells them that you've been in a professional environment before and you know how to work with coworkers, with managers, with stakeholders, things like that. So even if you don't believe it to be highly technical or highly relevant, having at least one job in there of your background there can convey a lot about you. You're not just a fresh college grad student or whatever, right? Who's rough around the edges. You're somebody that actually understands professionalism. In the interview itself, again, I totally agree with Vinod. Your strongest, the highlight of the entire interview for me was that Medicaid question, and I'll kind of highlight another point of why that is. It shows that you were a creative problem solver. You solved the problem. You guys have ever heard of the Gordian knot kind of thing? There's this really complicated knot, and Alexander the Great just takes a sword and chops it down the middle. Super simple solution that ultimately served better for everyone involved and you didn't stay within the box of like, okay, well, we're not hitting all of our requirements, I guess we have to go and hit all of our requirements. No, you actually did the work to understand and change the requirements itself, and that ended up being the best solution for everybody, including your community that you served. I thought that, like, honestly, I want to hire you right now. I don't know if I should say that, but I thought that was a very, very strong point in your interview.
Thank you.
Okay, critical.
I found a little bit of critical, just one tiny piece.
Yeah.
If your passion is backend, at many companies, understanding DevOps will be part of it, just as an FYI. So
Okay.
even though, look, it's great that you were just transparent and you just said that, don't lie. Anyone can pick up on it, right? But over time, you may want to find out, like, is there a way I can get that satisfaction from DevOps, from learning? And you don't have to become a DevOps engineer, but at least understanding how those processes work.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I would plus one that too. I think you did a really good job speaking about technologies, and you could probably use the same sort of approach to talking about even your weaknesses or any kind of question that borders along things you don't like, things that you're weak at. You can sort of still use the same approach and mention it as, I don't enjoy these kinds of things, but I can understand and learn a lot of different types of technology. This is no different.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what actually Vinosh, what I was going to say about transparency. If you really don't like something specific, be aware, especially like with DevOps, because backend engineer, they're dealing with this a lot. Not all companies, they have luxury to have DevOps, especially startups. So backend engineer, they would be like backend / DevOps and all things at the same time. So you will be, when you're saying things like that, I don't like this technology, I don't like this activity, just keep it in mind that may discourage them. Okay, this guy may be not a good fit for that position, just keep it in mind, right? However, transparency is good, but keep it smart. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Anyway, thank you very much, candidate number 2, and good luck with everything. And I think, Vinosh, we're doing this today pretty fast, which is great. And I think let's talk about like to get the first job for software engineers who straight out of the boot camps, who just graduated, because it's always stressful. This is
Absolutely.
it's a big thing, right? Let's talk about it. And one more thing, I just realized that I didn't announce it previously. We launched in December the private mock interviews. So whoever guys not comfortable to going through this process, being publicly speaking and record it and posting on YouTube, we just started doing the private mock interviews with also hiring managers. Not all of our hiring managers are participating in this, but you guys can book a private one. That will be a paid mock interview. I'll post a link, but this is optional, obviously, right? And yeah, that's how it is. Do we have candidate number 3 ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm sharing my screen. Give me a few seconds. All right. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can see your
Okay.
screen.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you for joining. And please tell us about yourself and about your last experience and project.
Hello, everyone. My name is Candid number 3. I'm a college student studying Bachelor's of Applied Science in Software Development at ABC College near ABC location. My background is in technical support and cloud computing. I worked as a cloud services associate as a contractor for Company B. In that role, I provided virtual escort sessions for component engineering teams who worked in the Azure government environment. I provided a point of escalation and support to the network operations center and the data center technicians. After that, I worked as a technical support agent for at various software companies. In both companies, I got to work directly with the end users, providing support for the respective companies' products and services. During my time at support, I got intrigued about computer science, learning the code. So I had taken part-time prerequisite classes to get into my current bachelor's program. I will graduate in December of 2021. I'm interested in full stack development, and I'm currently seeking a software development internship for summer of 2021. I have highlighted my two projects on my resume, Projects A and Project B. Now, for Project A, since my primary coding language is in Java, I wanted to build a project with Java. So I decided to use Spring Framework, where I used Spring Web and used Java as a backend language to fetch live data from the GitHub repository that gets updated once every 24 hours. It fetches the coronavirus cases numbers of various countries across the globe. Then it outputs the data in front of the users using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Bootstrap framework. For Project B, I built a web application for a nonprofit organization that serves the homeless population. The web application has an intake form for the users, contact management, email functionality for the admins. Admin can go and log in and see view the form entries, and they can quickly enable and disable the form. Now, on this project, I practiced Scrum, which included sprint planning, biweekly sprint review, conducted frequent usability tests to ensure a quality product for this project. I used HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap framework for the client side, and PHP and MySQL for our server-side language and database. That is all from me. I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback and answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. You're very well coordinated there, and I'm starting to feel a little nervous about myself. I don't speak as well as you do. That was a very clean, very clear. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about that. The community project that you built for them. Who were your stakeholders there?
So we had one stakeholder. He was basically a project coordinator for that nonprofit organization we're building the project for. So every so he used to give us like a certain task, that get updated every 2 weeks, and based on the tasks and what he feels about the project, we used to demo the project every 2 weeks. We integrate that those features into the product, show him the product, make necessary changes, and so on and so on.
So did you demo and present your work to that stakeholder, or did you present it to the actual nonprofit themselves?
So he was the only representative from that nonprofit. So we demoed directly to him on a screen share every 2 weeks.
Okay, gotcha. And did you involve him in sprint planning as well?
Sprint, not necessarily. Basically, he used to just give us like, okay, these are the features I'm looking for. Can you integrate to the project, and show us how you did in 2 weeks. And basically, that's how it went. Sprint planning and everything that I did with my team and everything. But he was only involved, like we used to only see him once every 2 weeks.
Okay. And how big was your team?
My team, we had a team of 3.
Team of 3. Okay. Cool. Awesome. All right. So what would you say was the biggest thing that you contributed to that team?
The biggest thing I contributed to this team was before the layout was a little outdated, and I did not like the layout of this. So I completely revamped the front end interface using the Bootstrap 4.0. That's the biggest thing I contributed. And the other thing I contributed was when admin logs in, see how you have enable and disable buttons. So if the admin can disable, if clicks the disable, the form actually gets disabled. There is no form, and admin can quickly go in and enable. So those two features are the primary things that I contributed on this project.
Awesome. What about organizationally? Like, how did you contribute to the team in the execution of the project?
Did you mean in terms of planning? How did we communicate,
Yeah.
correspondence, etc.? So we had a Trello, right? So Trello where we were keeping track of our task and what who does what task and so on. And also we were also we had our designated time for our group meetings, and we were also had our private Discord group where we were communicating if something got stuck and so on and so on. So Discord, group meetings, weekly group meetings, and a Trello were three things that we used on this project.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool.
In terms of the application, we'll stick with this one while we're here. How did you end up choosing the technology for it? Yeah, how did you decide CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap, etc.?
So, we were actually learning, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Bootstrap framework in school. So we decided to basically use what we were already learning. Um, and we were learning, so front end, we knew we wanted to do HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap. On the back end, we had, we were learning PHP, and MySQL is the database class we used in the bachelor's program. So we decided to just combine all of them and make a product out of it.
Got it. Is there anything with any challenges that you ran into as you were building the app that you felt like your tool set either limited you or really helped you?
So challenges in terms of tool set were all good, but in terms of like working with the teams, collaborating with the teams, that was one of the challenges. So what we, at the beginnings, like a few of my team members were missing the meetings, and that was really helpful. So we're not on the same track. So what we decided to do was, okay, we all sat down, we came on a working agreement. So basically, we pull out a Google Doc, we entitled working agreement, where we wrote down, okay, these are the things that we as a team agree on. So we will, for example, we will meet every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. period. Will this work for everybody? Point number 2, and so on and so on. And after we do that, basically, after we combinedly make a bullet points that those are the agreements that we as a team agree on, then it became more smooth, I guess. Yep.
Okay. And you said there was a team of 3 for this. Can you help me understand like who sort of did what there? And I think Min sort of asked earlier, like what was your contributions here? But like, was there someone who was a little bit more on the PHP side, someone a little bit more on the something? How did that look?
Right. So we had my other teammate. She was responsible for the database. Remember the MySQL database when all this when the users does the form entry, all this data has to store. So she managed basically creating the data space from scratch, doing the ER diagrams, uh, joins and whatnot. So one was handling a database. My other teammate, he was handling, now this form, it has form validation, server-side validation using PHP, and client-side validation using JavaScript. So he was handling that aspect of it. I was basically combining everything, because since I revamped the page, I was responsible the whole layout, how it will
Okay,
look.
the front end.
Exactly, will it look pretty and so on. And I on the PHP part where enabling and disabling the form and stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. I kind of want to shift focus a little bit over to sort of what you're looking for. I know I ask a lot of these types of questions.
So right now I'm looking for a software development internship for summer 2021. Since and then I'll graduate in December 21. But in terms of working wise, I'm really interested in working on full stack development. So I want to be part of where I can see the product sign from the back to the front. How the customers react. How does that gets in the back end. So I really wanted to get involved in that. And yeah, not
Awesome.
necessarily focus on one thing, but as a full stack development.
Only because you mentioned actually looking for a software internship, I'll ask you this. What do you want to get out of an internship?
Now, on an internship, what I really want to do is I want to get exposed to a large code base, right? Working on this large real life code base, contributing to that code base, hopefully adding new features or and others to the existing product of that particular company that I'll be interning with. So basically, working on a real life on a scalable projects, and enhancing and broadening my skill set is what I'm really looking forward on my internship this summer.
Awesome. Awesome.
Can you, on the company A, December 19th to November 2020,
Right.
can you walk me through a little bit with the queries that you had to do? What were the logs, the queries? Can you walk me a little bit through that?
Yes. So I was on a company A. I worked as a tier 2 tech support where I was handling cases from tier 1 and other account managers for that company. Now, I use Kusto queries because the application was made on .NET. We had our internal tool where the tool already had Kusto queries there. All I had to do is I need to make a few edits. For example, one of the Kusto queries that I always used to do was email logs, right? So if a customer calls me and says, hey, I didn't receive an email sent by a company on this day and time, I could use that Kusto query, edit some details, and then quickly be able to verify that fact that yes, we did. The email was sent out from our server to your server. Maybe you want to check the junk email and stuff. So that was one. So there was multiple Kusto queries, but that was just one example on how I was using Kusto queries, basically in terms of solving the cases for the customers.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like, yeah, if a customer comes in and says, hey, I'm having a problem, I can't X, I can't see this, or this didn't get delivered, whatever, you can at least get some sort of look at the state in your own system using these queries and
Exactly.
so forth. Was there a time where you had to create your own query, that there wasn't a pre-made query already existing?
I did not made created a query from scratch, but I had to make a lot of edits. So for example, if there were some queries, and if it was not giving me accurate data, I had to edit out few things on the query itself, and then try to fix it. And once I came, hey, this is actually working, then I used to share that with my teammates, a team lead, and we made the changes on the query itself on our tools.
Got it.
Yeah, nice. Can you tell me about a time when you just got really, really stuck, whether it's executing on the project or learning a new technology or something like that? Can you just tell me about a time you got really, really stuck?
I get stuck when I do like lead code problems, because now I'm like, yeah, I practice that a lot for the interviews for my internship. Breaking it down, right? So especially the lead code medium and hard level problems, those are not easy. So I break it down first, break it down ABC, and check, okay, did I do the A part? Okay, did I do the B part? Okay, B is actually where I got stuck on, so maybe I need to focus on B. And I also said, this is a technique I use, I set myself in a time box. So where I set up a timer on Google for like 30 minutes and 45 minutes and really try to focus on that problem. If I cannot solve it in that particular time box, I ask for help. But I do my time boxing first.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So what happens if there's nobody around, or they're like, oh, holy crap, that's way too complicated for me to look at. I'm going to need like, way more time than we have in this. In other words, you just can't get help from people.
Then whoever a really cool problem would be easy one, right? But let's say if it was a real life, then I would set an expectation. Hey, this is what I'm really stuck on. I would communicate immediately, like, hey, this is what I'm stuck on, and that kind of thing. Communication, I'll always put that first.
Awesome.
One question I had is, so it's awesome that you're in this degree program so far. And where do you find yourself going to learn about technology, kind of keeping up with industry trends and things like that?
So what I like to do is there are a few websites that I follow, right? Especially when I say follow, I subscribe to your newsletters. And and I'm confident that okay, those websites, if I get a newsletter, weekly newsletter from that website, then it's going to be more of a refined information, which will clean out the fuss, but only give me the import. For example, Java, right? If once I subscribe to that particular website, it's only going to give me what's happening currently on Java ecosystem every week. So that's one way, just following the right people or following the right newsletters. That's one way I keep myself updated. Now, in terms of learning a new technology, um, YouTube.
Sure.
Yeah, if you follow, there's just really, really, really good resources on YouTube, and it's free. So, but yeah, those are
So I think I heard newsletters and YouTube channels because there's a lot of content on both of those. Yeah,
exactly, yeah.
got it. Got it. What's been the most like impactful thing you've learned recently
The most impactful thing I learned
that
recently.
maybe you were able to like use into a project?
I haven't used on my project yet. So graph theory is what I'm currently learning right now. I found was when I'm doing lead code problems, um, there were problems in graph theory and I got stuck. So I really didn't have I haven't taken the class in graph theory yet. I'll be taking that next quarter, but I'm
Okay.
learning it right now just so I can, you know, so if I do get asked on those interview questions, I can at least answer them. Yeah, graph theory is what I'm learning right now.
Cool.
Awesome.
Let's start with the feedback, guys.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. So I thought this is a really interesting interview because you are really coming in and you actually said it twice that your intention was to be an intern, right? You're looking for an internship position. I think broadly speaking, in any of these interviews, candidate number 4 is going to get a bit of a jump start on this. I'm looking for a couple of very basic things at a minimum out of everybody. One of those is, what do you actually want? And then another one of those things is something unique about you. How do you actually stand out from that? As an intern, that can be really, really difficult, right? Because you don't have a lot of experience in the industry yet. And so you're not able to pin a lot of the things that you're talking about in specifics. So in absence of that, I started to focus on drive. I thought that you did a pretty good job of showing that, you're a very professional individual, that you are here to take things very, very seriously. And you're out there to grow and to learn.
Mhm.
Drive tends to be a very big differentiator when I'm looking at interns. And so that's also in the area that you could continue to do more in. So I'll give you a specific example. You were talking about your project, Project A, that you worked with a team of 3.
Right.
If you noticed, a lot of our questions started to bounce around, like, what was your specific contribution to that, and what was your role in executing in that project, right? In
Yeah.
a sense, I wanted to get the understanding that, were you a member of the team or were you someone leading the team?
Right.
And that can be kind of interesting, because even if you're inexperienced or even if you've never worked before, you can always sort of take that role of a leader within any kind of group that you work in, right? So we
Right.
were asking you questions about, like, okay, well, did you what processes were you running, what ceremonies did you kind of contribute to make sure your team was successful?
Right.
Those are some of the areas that you can sort of be you can speak a little bit more about your own contributions there,
Okay.
and start to separate, are you someone who's going to, or are you trying to paint yourself as somebody who is doing work or leading work,
Okay.
Great. So I'll pick up and I'll start with the resume itself. Initially, very clear. I was able to understand your resume very easily. A couple of things that just for you to know. So when I see, let's say, like jQuery HTML, CSS that tells me a little bit about like the front end skill set not being strong enough yet, right?
Okay.
Just as an FYI, so in general, there's a lot of companies that are probably going to be using a SPA, a single page app. So maybe a React, Vue, Angular, those are the things. So I see frameworks here for JavaScript, or maybe a library like jQuery, but I'm not seeing like an understanding of vanilla JS. Right, that's something that I noticed, and it shows. I can see that on the website as well. That said, look, like that's why I sort of said, how did you choose your technology? Well, that's what I'm learning right now. Makes total sense. Completely understandable, right? I wanted to apply what I learned. That's a good thing, right? On the some feedback side also, one of the things I was curious was, like you said, that I'm looking for a full stack role. I was unclear on why you didn't take that opportunity to be full stack on the collaborative project that you were on. You had the opportunity there, but instead it sounded like you stuck to the form button and the front end. And I was like, maybe he's just passionate about front end. That's cool, right? But what you then say is that, no, I actually want full stack, right? So that was a little unclear on like why you didn't do that. But I do liked, coming back to some feedback I'd given earlier, is like, I like hearing about the tech support stuff, like company ABC there, right? Like I like hearing how you helped customers and made their lives easier, right? Because that's the game. Whether you're a software developer or you're like, we're all trying to solve the same problem. We're trying to help a customer some way.
Correct.
Right. So all of that was interesting. And the reason I asked, like, did you create a query is like, is to say, can you do something outside of what's been taught? Can you learn something different on your own? Right. So I've got edits of these custo queries, right? Can I do it myself? That's something you can look at for yourself, is like, how does that same skill apply in software development?
Okay.
But overall, like, as I said, very clear interview, totally understand what you're kind of looking for and where you're coming from.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, that was very structured and good feedback, guys. Thank you very much, candidate number 3.
Thank you.
I wish you good luck. Apply what you've learned. I hope it will help you out to get your first internship, job, and so on.
I will. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, we have the last candidate, candidate number 4. You're okay, I see. Hey, candidate number 4, are you ready to share your screen and roll?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yep.
All right. Hey, I'm candidate 4 a.m. and they say that I've read it somewhere that there is no difference between feeling anxious and exciting. So here I am, super excited. And so
nice.
Good start.
I've graduated from programming bootcamp 9 months ago, and I'm a junior developer, full stack developer. Mainly my tech stack involve JavaScript and some Python here and there for machine learning. I started my programming interest while I was in school. I am in college. I'm into automation engineering postgraduate. And once I started like programming robotics and software, I introduced it in C++ programming, and hell, it was hell nightmare. And then it's like, it was super hard, but I loved it. That would trigger like the spark to learn programming, and it triggered an action and found the programming bootcamp and enrolled to it. My recent project, I've gone through multiple team projects and started from NodeChat, which is through the programming bootcamp, which is a chat app, applies real-time communication. And following by that, the second group project was Uni Blocks, which is involved to solve a problem, but it would never went to the MVP. It wasn't MVP. Nobody used it. So going through this is like through the actual programming bootcamp program. But after graduating bootcamps, like I said, I am all this time I've been relying on my real mates. I really need to go deep in my skills. So I started the project, and I wanted to create a value. So I created VS Code extension. If you know what's a VS Code, is a code editor, probably the most famous code editor right now. So Screenify, basically, it's a tool that allows you to capture code snippet and share it online with others. So the reason I created the tool was each time I decided if I wanted to share a code with somebody, it's like my friend, I need to use the operating system snippet capture. Then I need to copy paste it and save it and share it in Discord or Slack or even Facebook Messenger. Yeah, I am that kind of guy. And it was very annoying. I said, why can I do a solution that probably I can use it and other people can use it? And that went to the development and created the Screenify app. So throughout the development, I decided, okay, while I've developed the front end and stopped at the back end, it says, okay, Adam, oh God, shit. Okay, sorry. Sorry for that. I says like nobody's gonna. I cannot. 100 people are not going to use my app. It's like there are thousands of people, probably 10,000 of people. So I cannot develop simple application. So I said, okay, I need to go bigger. So I decided to go with Docker and Google Cloud, and I knew nothing about them. And I started digging deeper and deployed a cluster of application to the Google Cloud so it can take hundreds of thousands of load on the backend. Right now it has almost 4,000 downloads. And just quick review, I've made like simple application, how it works. This is Screenify. And when you start the app, start here. And when you copy paste it and you see it here, and you can draw, select whatever color, and you highlight something here. And then you upload it online. Yeah. While it's being uploaded, it's a legit uploading. It takes a while, but that's yeah, probably Hotwire. Okay.
This is normal for demo.
Yeah, I'm going to switch.
Absolutely.
God, can you see our screen?
Yeah, I mean, we still
We
the
can see.
Hello World one. Now we're back to, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
A fellow DuckDuckGo user, as am I.
Absolutely, it's like became my. Why can I copy?
This is my favorite.
Can't copy. Why? Okay, never mind. As like this is legit application. This is legit.
I love it.
This is what
Okay.
usually happens on demo, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
But this application was developed. I'm gonna switch back to the demo. Okay. This is my latest was not my latest project. My latest project was actually there is a story behind it. It's like there's a programming challenge for senior foreign backend developer, and this says you have to develop a microservice for image URL website URL screenshotter, and you have to do it in 2 days. I said, okay, it's a new challenge. Let's do that. And I've developed the app and posted. We used the stack of Node.js, some Postgres, and
Number 4. You ran out of the time already.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
No, stop
maybe.
sharing my screen.
However, this is very interesting. And Vinosh, Min, I give the lead to you. It's you can either continue or follow up questions.
Yeah. Oh, we could probably start asking questions. Min, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Early on, you said C++ was a hellish nightmare. Why was it so hard?
Min is very
Because-
hurt by this question.
Like,
Okay.
why was it so hard?
Because it was the first programming language I've been interested to do it. And the framework that we've used was Borland. Probably it's like a blue screen DOS operating system. In order to run the application, you need to control how the screen renders. Like you need to clear the screen from it's a black screen, but you need to clean it yourself. So everything is you have to do it yourself. And the compiler was not doing you any favor. Speaking of compiler, I just built my compiler at the end of the year, just because it was challenging and it was a nightmare to me. It's a C++ close compiler. I won't jump to it. It's too many threads.
That's awesome. The reason why I wanted to ask about that is sometimes people, difficulty can be expressed in a lot of different ways, right? And I was curious why that was difficult for you. So thank you for that. How would you compare it to a language or a framework you're using today?
For example, let's say I'm using JavaScript and Python. Okay. It's a lot easier to focus on the things that matters. So I'm kind of guy which is I try to solve problems, but using the technology to solve problem, not the way around. So for example, if I want to go to machine learning, I probably go with Python, because Python provides me a lot of libraries that kickstart things. But if I want to do something with the web, I would probably go with JavaScript. So my first priority is the problem, and I choose the product based on the problem itself.
Awesome.
By product, I mean technology.
Thank you. So you basically went exactly where I was thinking about that. So thank you. It's perfect. Can you tell me about your favorite language or framework and why it's actually your favorite?
Framework is okay? Front end framework, right?
Doesn't matter. It can be front end, back end framework.
Yeah. So for the front end, I am more into React for web development and React Native for mobile development. And the reason behind that, because it allows a great data structure, data state movement flow. And I've used multiple ones, and the best I found is React so far, based my purpose. And for the backend, I'm using not TypeScript and Node.js mostly. And also I'm using Postgres for the backend, for the database, and NoSQL, I usually use Firebase or MongoDB.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. I want to ask you about your VS Code extension, because that's probably one of the most impressive things I've seen people actually do as a project. Did you build this entirely yourself, or did you have a team?
So I've built it entirely myself. But It's really, you cannot say I built it entirely myself, because I took existing project and I kind of built on top of it. So I should not take the credit entirely for myself. It's like, I cannot tell the name of the on air.
I love that.
Sorry. Okay.
Awesome. Can you tell me about some feedback that you've gotten? You have over 4,000 downloads, you mentioned. Have you gotten any feedback from people about it?
So it's 3.9K. I've only got feedback from one person, and probably it's like the only person who gave me 5 stars feedback, and it's not very good metric. It's not very precise metric.
Yeah.
It's like, people don't really rate it, but the majority of people who've used it, and still I still have the Google Cloud API traffic. So there is traffic. So it provides value to other people, which is like what made me more like positive about it. It's like it added value to others.
Nice, nice. How do you evaluate that though? How do you evaluate what kind of value it creates?
That's a good question. I need 5 seconds to think of it. So by evaluation, he means how you can say,
yeah, how
so
you can say whether it was.
Okay. So in business management, you have MVP, and you start with an idea, most valuable product, and if you have most valuable product that people like, then you add feature to it. So you start, okay, so if people can add and do this feature, it's like can take a screenshot and post it online, and it's a very fast because it uses Google API. I don't want to use my. It's very fast and it's traffic management, so it is very accessible where people like it. Then if people liked it, I'm gonna add more feature. For example, video. You don't take a screenshot, you take a video. But I didn't do that, but because it's kind of like what's my goal? This is a question. This is something that I've learned from can number 3. Thank you for that. Is what I would like to be. I would like to have a junior development position. So I'm more focused in job hunting right now.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
So I have a question. Can we talk about Company X? And can you walk me through, just the work there, and I'll ask some follow-up questions there.
Sure. Company X is the period when I really, it is after building my Screenify app, and it's where I knew that I don't know about anything about software development. So it's okay. So I started there. Yes. I met a friend, and it's like, okay, we want to so it's a software. Okay. The requirement is to refactor the application. The company uses Android mobile app and iOS development mobile app team. It's very costly, and they want to combine together using maybe cross-platform React platform. And there's somebody the PM told me that, and the next day I gave him the MVP of his application in React Native. He said, "Okay, that's nice. Can you refactor it though into something else?" And said, "Okay, Roger that." Then the day after, I refactored it into adding more feature. Later than my goal of that session and more of that that approach is kind of get a like kind of internship position, and and then he says, "Okay, you are going to take the entire project your own, and you have to recruit people, and you're going to ship all the production team yourself." I said, "Okay," and I started doing that. I hired some people from my team in the programming bootcamp, which was an interesting option, and we started building React Native application. So what was role is to refactor the old application in the same UI but new technology. And
I'm sorry, just to make sure I didn't miss it, the reason for refactoring it into React Native was because
it was very costly to and also costly in time to develop features, and also you have the iOS platform for verification once on publishing. So it's better to have one platform to publish.
Got it. So one code base in both. Okay, got it.
Yeah, one code base. Yeah, exactly. One code base, 2 devices, 2 platforms. And we started deploying the application, and we kind of, they said the standards is very high in the code quality. At that time, I didn't know much about testing, and I didn't know how much is like it matters to use different structure of code, hierarchical structure, and all of that while leading 2 people.
Yeah. And how did code get to, let's say, production? How does that work?
Okay, so first of all, is you mean the steps or kind of?
Yeah, so I'm on my computer, I'm on my laptop, right, or whatever, write some code. Maybe do I create a pull request? How does that work? Can you walk me through the steps until it's now available for users?
Sure. So we have our like kind of senior developer, senior gatekeeper over the GitHub. So we don't push to master, never. And oh, sorry, there is no master. Main branch, and the first thing is I get the ticket, in which are the requirements of my code, and there's deliverables, and they have testing criteria. And once we finish that we write the code, we write tests, we make sure that the linting works, and we create a new branch, and we create a pull request to the master with a specific naming, and also everything is tagged. And also you have to write a lot of documentation, because all of that is done through 8 hours difference time zone. So we better have our documentation communication very strict. And after that's going, like this usually takes 1 day to build a feature, but our code criteria for pull requests, for code reviewing is very strict. And I have to wait 5 days to, it's like kind of back and forward. They send me like a review, the pull request, the senior developer send me a review and kind of fix that review and says he thinks that doesn't work, so rewrite it, refactor it again, and do it. This process keeps continuing, doing until the BR guy accepts my pull request and merge to master. And we have everything set up, so we have continuous integration, continuous development, use Fastlane in order to deploy to the company iOS development platform and Android separately. So once things get to master, it's published, but it never get that easy. No, sorry, there's no.
Is there like it's main? Yeah. Is there like a develop branch that you all use, or is it just the various branches themselves are deployed to the dev platform?
No, we have a publish branch and we have main branch, and we have every branch is a feature of its own. So we have these features. All the features are little branches.
Got it. So it's okay. Got it. So somewhere between Git flow and trunk based. Okay, got it. Cool.
We're using GitHub,
Awesome.
yeah.
All right, that's all the questions I had.
What are you about that process? So it sounds like there was a lot of challenges in that process. Candidate number 4, what would you say is something that you would have liked to see improved in that process, or something that could have been improved about that process?
Sorry, guys. Let's keep it short. We're running out of the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Sweet.
But yeah, please, let's skip this question. Just try to answer in a minute.
So the process is kind of, the time zone made it I have to wait very long to get my review because the time difference. And there's the code reviewer was paid by hour. So it's like, and the company doesn't want to pay him more than certain hours. And so I have to, if I missed like 3 minutes, I have to wait to the next day, which is very annoying. So I have to work in parallel. So I have to work in parallel features. And this will affect my performance because I cannot laser focus in one ticket and ship it. But this is part of development. I cannot really complain. It's an issue that manifested in the industry stuff. They would love this to happen. Maybe the time zone.
Yeah.
Made it harder.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Let's move with the feedback.
Yeah. So I'll start with your resume. So the visual structure of your resume is interesting. It's very different, and it kind of jumps out at me because of that. I think it's missing some information though, some key information, and you could probably fill in some of the empty space a little bit with a little bit more, maybe something with your skills and proficiencies, maybe break that down into different categories of technologies that you're familiar with. I did really like your project. I thought that was a very strong element to have on your resume. Having something that you actually built, published, and have users for is always a really strong project. So I thought that was really good. A really positive point that I'll touch on that I think you did really well on. You brought a lot of personality to the interview, and people listening, yes, bringing personality to your interview could put you at risk of being disqualified for some interviewers. Some people might not like your personality if you put that out there in front, but the ones that do like it, they will like it so much more. And so it's a bit of a trade-off between the two. And I personally, I prefer to go play to your strengths, right? So if you have a very inviting personality and you want to put that in the forefront, absolutely do so. You're going to attract the ones that are already reacting positively to that, and then the ones that are kind of neutral or lukewarm or don't care. Honestly, it doesn't hurt you too much in there anyways. So I thought you did a really good job of kind of being very comfortable in your own personality in the interview itself. Couple points of feedback. I really liked that you had mentioned your prior experience in company X, and you were able to talk about how that opened your mind to a lot of new things that you hadn't ever considered before, like testing, like code quality, like deployment. What I would have liked to see in some of that is for you to go kind of one step further in all of that. Not so much just talking about the processes as they were, but sort of the insight that gave you when you were exposed to it. So insights as to code quality. Yeah, it's actually very important to have, you know, timely review processes in place. It's really important to have testing in place. As you were talking about some of your experiences as well, I would have liked to see how much of the concepts and the ideas you took from it, because that's what's ultimately that's what's ultimately going to translate into other roles, other places with slightly different processes, but valuing the same ideas. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of the things is more in the visual effect, the white spaces is like I'm trying to make the compress things to make it as short as possible, and it's very easy to eyes to see. So it's like you have spaces everywhere, and I've reduced a lot of information. It's like kind of things that I would be asked in an interview to fill out the gaps.
I think similarly, if I were to go, the resume actually for me was actually very hard to read initially.
Oh, okay.
Because we read left to right, top to bottom, right? So the first thing I saw was skills, projects, and then skills, projects, then went down to unit blocks, and then I was like, oh wait, there's work experience on the left over here, right? So I sort of made this circle thing, and to be fair, hiring managers looking at dozens, maybe hundreds of resumes, right? And so the easier it maps into what they're already familiar with, the higher chance you have, right? So what I usually recommend to people is find a template that's out there. Just use a good template, and they're already set up for that. And it's just like using a framework, right? Like with React take care of some of those things for you. You don't have to do it. Vanilla.js, right? Same thing with resumes. So all of that was good. I agree with Min that I really loved your, I just got to know you as a person, right? I think it's a good indicator that look, to kind of expand a little bit on Min's point, who you are, if you can show that in your interview, and it is possible that some places they may not like who you are. So that's a good thing that you don't end up working there, right? But if they like you, then that's actually good for both people, for you and them. Like you can just be yourself when you get to work, right? So think of that as a positive thing in some way, to say that like, hey, maybe some people might not like you. Maybe that's not the right place for you. But I personally I especially loved the like, why isn't this copying? It was so great because I've been there so many times of like, I know this demo should be working and it's not. And it was so perfect. And it just hit me in the dev feels, right? So I loved all of that. Some feedback I would give is, look, there's two themes that we're looking for in any interview. How do you work with people? How do you understand technology, right? And that's really what we're always looking for. And I know that you leaned very heavy on the tech, right? And that's why I wanted to understand a little bit more about Company X, because I want to know, how do you work with people, right? So I understand though that like initially when you're kind of first starting out, you want to be like, I know all the things that the tech, I know those things, I know these things, right? But in actuality, it's a mix of both, right, that we want to get a sense of. So in your Company X thing, just like you did with technologies for your projects, you may even do that there a little bit. And those bullet points can be shorter because they shouldn't be paragraphs. They should be a problem statement that you helped solve through you. And then finally, as you're in an interview, there's something, you can Google it. It's called like the STAR format for answering questions. It's like, what's the situation? You know, how did you kind of, and what was the result, right? That helps so that your answer is like, you can even cut it down to like 30 seconds. And then we can move on to further points, as opposed to having a minute and a half, 2 minutes of like, oh, well, it was this one person, I had to talk about this and I did that. Like it becomes hard for the interviewer to track all the story if you can keep it to that format.
Got it.
But yeah, but other than that, I mean, like as I said, I really enjoyed hearing your story and talking to you, but you can just make it really like efficient.
Got it.
I totally agree
Concise.
with Vinosh, because your personality is really amazing. I tell you right away, from my perspective, right? But at the same time, we ran out of the time twice, which is not what you want to end it up. So keep the same personality, but make it more efficient, keeping in mind that, you know, there is a time limit. And for example, if that was actually a requirement, like you have to fit into the 4 minutes, right? And you have, I mean, you not really have to follow the direction, but it will definitely affect, right, on the opinion, on the impression. So yeah,
Got it.
keep it in mind, right? And at the same
Absolutely.
time, same thing, I'm totally +1 with the resume. People won't be able to find you out how awesome you are if you will give them this resume, because a lot of, I mean, you need to work out on the resume and do your best. I would say take a note from the previous actually candidates. They had, I think, candidate number 2 and 3, they had a pretty standard and easy written resume, right? And again, there should be no
Got it.
as Vinor said, there should be no paragraphs in the bullet. Yeah, keep it in mind, and good luck with everything. Thank you very much for participation.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, let's do the last activity, and really want to talk about like what we, how to help out for graduates to get the first job. I'll pull the poll. That would be a very quick 1 minute. Just want to, and Min and Vinosh, the same thing. You just say your preference in the Slack to me. I won't tell who is who, but this is very interesting. I think we want to see opinion of managers and opinion of participants. which candidate do you like the most? Or we can say, which candidate would you continue, right?
Mhm.
Cool. All right, we have already 13 people voted. All right, I'll stop the polling and I'll share with you guys. Interesting. So we have interesting situation. Even numbers was for all candidates except candidate number 3. Just okay, three people voted for candidate number 1, 2, and 4, and 4 candidates voted for candidate number 3. Interesting. At the same time, I think we have a small amount of people who voted. It's just 13. Anyway, and what I got in the from managers, actually, all of them, they go to candidate number 2. Interesting, right? All right, I'll stop sharing my results. And I'm actually also very happy that most of you guys said that it was very helpful. That's awesome. Vinosh, man, can you probably just emphasize like what you was looking for and what the strongest points was in the candidate number 2, so people will understand, right?
Yeah. Um, I'll kind of summarize by just saying that all of the things that you carry into the interview itself, whether it's your resume, your cover letter, or any of that, it's not so much what's actually on there. It's more of what it says about you as a person and as a candidate. And that's really where candidate number 2 excelled. Within the interview and in their resume itself, it told a very consistent story. This is somebody who has who has a strong foundational understanding of technology. In other words, they are able to start at the very high level view, get very deep into a specific aspect of the technology, and they can understand a lot of different kinds of technologies and categories of technologies, right? So we're not looking for you to be experts, like true industry experts in any of that. That's completely unrealistic. And it's unrealistic that we even have a need most of the time for an industry expert. So the idea is to convey that you understand that these things exist and you can think about them separately from one another. But then the other side of it too, and this is, I think, where candidate 2 had a really, really strong story in their Medicaid example, right? That work history showed that they're able to work with people at a non-technical level to talk about requirements, to talk about need, and to creatively problem solve with that, right? Ultimately, their impact was driven not by a technical decision, but by very clever problem solving with people, right? So all of that together makes them easily a strong engineer and a very, very safe hire.
Cool. Vinosh,
Yeah,
what do you...
there's a to echo that, like if you put on the hiring manager hat, a hiring manager is looking to mitigate risk, reduce risk, right? And so what does reduction of risk look like? It's like, can I see this person with my team, right? And I felt that this candidate, I could see how he understood the technology enough to have, let's say I'm visualizing a ticket in the sprint. Would it keep moving? Yes, he would work with others, and I could see how he would interact with others, right? So once those things are crossed, like, look, I understand that this candidate just came out of a boot camp, and there's a like, we're not looking for a senior engineer at this point, you know, etc. Right? But that doesn't matter, because I can see that over time I saw themes of learning, collaboration, drive, problem solving, to Min's points, and those are the things that made it a very clear answer.
Cool, cool. That's very interesting. Okay, so we got majority of our participants was from boot camps, and pretty much they have similar story, right? What you guys think, like how they can land their first job? I mean, obviously it's a hustle, and it's like it's very challenging. We understand that, right? But what would you think, like, and also like from as a hiring manager, right? What can stand out the person who just graduated from the boot camp? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I have the luxury of actually working with a lot of people who are in that exact situation, and so I'll share some of the same insights that I share with them. You want to make sure that you any place that you're really interviewing for, you kind of have to think, what is the person that you want to convey to them, right? And then you want to make all of your assets, everything that you're going to present to them, kind of support that idea, right? And one of the strongest ideas that you can sort of present to companies, as someone with very limited experience, is not that you're technical. Instead, it's that you're capable and you're responsible, right? So one of the strongest things that to be able to convey to people in your interviews is to say, you know, I might not know React and React Native and like all of these like specific technologies, but if you can talk about the high level idea that relates to them, then you stand a much higher chance of conveying to them that, okay, I might not know your specific tool here, but I know the idea behind that, and I feel very confident in my ability to learn that specific tool or technology. That goes to exactly what Vinoj was saying about mitigating risk, right? Now your interviewer is looking at you as someone, they're not just saying, oh, they don't know X, Y, or Z that's on the job requirement, on the job description. Instead, they're saying, they don't have experience with XYZ specifically, but they've done VWY that's similar. And it sounds like they're very capable and responsible to go and learn and find the things that they need to in order to accomplish that. I feel pretty good about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's super great, man. I also think that the hardest part, I'm guessing, for people who are coming out of a boot camp is getting that first interview, right? So we've talked a little bit about, once you're at the interview, don't try to come in and be like, I know everything, I got this, right? Like, that's not gonna fly, right? But getting into this, so then what can you do to make you stand out? I do think that working with others on a project that does have some, some community impact. So the candidate that had like a number of downloads, that's cool. It would be also awesome if there's a few people along with it and your work, because that shapes you, as I said, to see what they might work like in a company. And then the other thing is, don't neglect how you worked in the career you were before. Like, if you did well in that career, let's see that. That's cool, right? And if you can also then, I've seen some people take like, I don't know, they were in, let's say, biology, right? And you could see they took on more responsibilities in that field. Well, that tells you about a certain type of personality, and that personality type hopefully will still translate. Now you just happen to learn the tech that goes with it. So, see what skills you have before that may apply into this new career. So that's going to be really helpful.
Yeah. And those are like, Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Those are kind of the ideas that are universally sought after, right? Like being able to like being somebody who is very self-driven, right? That's universally sought after. Somebody who has a high attention to detail. And this is really, again, where some of your prior experience can really demonstrate that. If you worked as like a chemical engineer or something, yeah, you're gonna have a very high degree of attention to detail, right?
Right.
That's beautiful. That's perfect to
Yeah,
accentuate on your resume.
absolutely.
Yep. In terms of resume, let's say you're looking for a software engineer, not senior, right? And what could potentially stand out their resume besides their educational project? I mean, their project in the boot camps. For my opinion, I think, for example, candidate number 4 did a great job. Like that, he actually has his own project, right? And he showed up, demonstrate. But I think this project should be definitely in their resume. And yeah, and I think it was in his resume, right? What do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that project really was like the most attractive piece of that resume for sure. Something else that I'll kind of point to was candidate number 2. I believe this is the only candidate that actually used this. Take this with a grain of salt. I think every hiring manager that reads resumes reads them slightly differently, but I really enjoyed having that summary statement near the top. It's only 3 lines. It's very easy to get past, but it sort of sets up the story that I'm about to read through. It kind of primes my thinking for the rest of the resume and for the rest of the interview itself, right? I'll just read the first line really quick. Detail-oriented software developer with a mission to increase quality of life through technological innovation. Like you don't have to necessarily convince me of that, but it's like a movie trailer, right? You see a movie trailer and that pans by. You don't know what the rest of the movie is, but you're like, actually, I kind of want to see that now. I'm sort of interested. That grabbed my attention.
Yep. Agree.
So what's interesting is I disagree with Ben on this one. This one, I
Oh,
think this is
yeah.
our first time. This is our
Yeah,
first
this
time,
might
man.
be. Yeah.
I like ever. I actually usually tell people just cut that thing, just because usually our reflections of ourselves are not very accurate, right? So like I am, da da da, and it's like a leader of men. Like, wait, what? Like, right? Like something like that. So I one thing I would say though, but so to Min's point, it is individual. Different managers look for different things, right? So it's up to you how you want to utilize it. One thing that could be helpful is like making sure your LinkedIn is up to date, because sometimes, so LinkedIn is a really nice unifier for how hiring managers look at resumes, because we know that layout, we know how to look at it, and I don't have to look at each person's template differently, right? LinkedIn is the same all the time for all roles. So if you're able to put some of your project stuff, I think you can. I think I've seen people put like screenshots and stuff. That could help a little bit, because even if your resume is a little hard for us to gather, I can click in, oh, okay, oh, and you got a this and you did that before. Oh, and you're involved in this mentorship program. I don't know, right? This other activity too. That's interesting, right? I can see it very clearly on LinkedIn. So that's an option.
Awesome. Great. Okay, so yeah, I think that's a lot of stuff to do. I mean, as we said, it's a hassle to get a first job.
It is. It's hard.
Yeah. I think also can help working on different other projects, maybe publicly, like for nonprofit organizations. I don't remember the exact name, but a while ago, I've been on one meetup, and they actually did some nonprofit apps, and they were collaborating with multiple volunteering engineers. Actually, a lot of them, they were active software engineers who want to contribute to do some, interesting project collaboratively. I think that may help as well.
One thing I have noticed is just one last thing. I know,
Yeah.
Evgeny, we're right about a time. I've seen sometimes people put cover letters for applications. I found in general, cover letters are like really long or not long enough. So what does a good size look like, right? I think it's maybe a couple of paragraphs. Because remember, the person reading is going through dozens of resumes. And if you have 2 pages there, including about your dog Skippy, that's a little much for me to get into,
Yeah.
right? And it tells me that you don't actually know how to edit yourself, right? Because when you get to work, we need to be succinct in our communication as well, right? So what are you good at? And who are you as a person? That's usually enough.
Yeah.
Right? And then we're good to go. So don't overstress on like a novel for your cover letter.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Guys, I think we did it today. Awesome session. And guys, please apply whatever you hear here today. And yeah, good luck with everything. Follow us in the Slack channel and in the YouTube as well. Just, practice, practice, practice. Never give up. Try again. All what we can say, right? And thank you very much for joining for all our participants today. I hope it was helpful for you. Can you share the Slack channel link? You can check in the meetup.com in our meetup group. You can find it there. Thank you, Vinoj, Min. Thank you very much for doing this, and see you next time.
Yeah,
See you next
thank
time.
you.
Bye.
Bye.